Yeah, it's really in the middle of this decade that really from the moment President Trump was getting sworn into office in January of 2017, you had a lot of supposed leaders on the left who were messaging to their followers to take extreme steps to confront Trump administration officials wherever you see them. We lived through the 2017 shooting of Steve Scalise, which, thank God, the Capitol Police officers responded as heroically as they did, or you would have had up to a couple of dozen dead members of Congress. Over the course of this last decade, there's been this evolution beyond rhetoric. It almost feels third world. I felt this in 2015, 2016 when I first got to Congress. I was on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and I saw that all these Middle Eastern countries, everybody was calling their opposition terrorists. Everybody was a terrorist. And you see the rhetoric here in the U.S. would go from right-wing Tea Party extremist to the evolution as they realized that the label wasn't working. And eventually, all you are left with is that next level of saying, okay, we're out of words. Now we have to start actually confronting our political opposition. And we've seen that to the extreme in the last decade, and it's only gotten worse.
That's so well put. The president has been very gracious about the Secret Service, but, we now have this slowed down video of how Cole Allen managed to blow past all of these armed people. I am very angry about that. I watched the video and it just boils my blood that our president was so close to danger. What was your reaction to it? Yeah,
I was just sitting a couple tables away from the president when it went down. A lot of members of the cabinet were there, as well as the president and the first lady and the vice president and a couple of thousand others. It hits so close to home when you immediately think of what happened in Butler, what almost happened on the golf course in South Florida, where another assassin targeted the president. What he is sacrificing to serve as president right now, with the way this radicalized left does want him dead, really is just a shocking reminder last Saturday at what should have been a pleasant dinner. Where people are coming together as a country, and that immediately went south right after the national anthem was played.
Now, you had your own very viral moment this week at a hearing with Connecticut Representative Rosa DeLauro, which really exemplifies the kind of toxic nature of so much of our political discourse. Let's play that and we'll get your reaction.
That's really important. As a member of Congress, Loper Bright says that we as an agency don't have the authority to get creative if Section 202 of the Clean Air Act
No, but you don't have, excuse me, you do not have the right to say climate change does not exist, that it's a hoax, and that's where this administration is coming from.
I understand you're upset that you don't know what Loper Bright is. Do you know what the major policies doctrine is?
I'm upset because...
You know what the major policies doctrine is?
You know what, let me just
You're a member of Congress. You should know.
Well, you have moved from someone who defended the environment to all of a sudden...
I'm very defensive about not knowing the two biggest landmark Supreme Court cases of the last year with regards to your question.
It was such an amazing moment because you just kept your cool and kept presenting the facts. And I think that this sort of, the facts versus the hysteria on the left, like that is the political moment we are in right now.
Yeah, I was asked the question about why we decided to rescind the 2009 endangerment finding. It's really the heart of the question that was getting asked, and my answer is that we have to follow the law. Basically, the question was asking about wanting us to fight global climate change, and in following the law, I have to read the Clean Air Act, Section 202, which doesn't mention fighting global climate change. And something very important happened in the last few years. The Supreme Court decided a case called Loper Bright, overturning the Chevron doctrine. So previously, if you're running a federal agency, you can get creative in interpreting a law. You can look at a law and say, well, the law doesn't say I can't, so I guess therefore I can. That was happening all of the time at agencies. but now we have to follow the best reading of the law. So I'm just responding to the question saying I'm going to follow the law. Section 202 of the Clean Air Act doesn't mention anything about fighting global climate change. Loper Bright says I have to follow the best reading of the law, and then mentioning the major question doctrine with West Virginia versus EPA. That point is that when an agency is going to put forth trillions of dollars of regulation, maybe that's something that Congress should be debating and voting on through elected representatives as opposed to rogue, unelected bureaucrats heading agencies. And that was another Supreme Court decision. So I wasn't making this stuff up. I'm just citing the actual statute and recent Supreme Court decisions and saying I'm going to follow the law.
So the president has been incredible on the energy front. There's been this sort of drill, baby, drill, which has really insulated us from much higher gas prices, even though they're high now because of the war in Iran. There was a call this week with Delta's CEO, which was very controversial because he said that even when gas comes down, they don't plan to bring down the prices. We're seeing now, I think, a return of the kind of greedflation that we saw during the pandemic. The president had a huddle this week with oil executives. Do you think this came up? And what can the president do to combat greedflation and to help the American people at the pump?
Well, I'll tell you, as EPA administrator, deregulation. What happened in 2023 and 2024, pursuing this notion that in order to protect the environment, you have to target entire sectors of our energy economy to go out of existence, targeting reliable, durable baseload power. That was what was happening in 23 and 24, and then we inherited these decisions that were made. We're supposed to decide whether or not to defend them in court. President Trump comes in, declares a national energy emergency, creates a National Energy Dominance Council, and at EPA, we're doing more deregulation in 1 year than entire federal governments have done in the past across every federal agency combined across all presidencies. And that's just about fixing this, both protecting the environment and growing the economy. Now, if anyone's listening, they're saying, well, you're the head of the EPA. Absolutely. And that's why we are most proud that on the 1 year anniversary of President Trump's term in office, we released a list of our top 500 pro-environment actions from that first year. We don't have to choose one or the other as a country. Very proudly, we choose both.
That is so well said. In the 30 seconds we have left, this week they found huge deposits of lithium in Appalachia. Lithium, of course, being a crucial component in EVs, crucial to the future. What does this mean for America and especially for the heartland?
Being able to reduce our reliance on China, being able to reduce our reliance on foreign sources, critical minerals, rare earth, from extraction through processing needs to be ramped up inside the United States. You hear a lot about unleashing energy dominance. We also care about batteries and magnets and chips and semiconductors. And when we have these own resources within our own country, we should not only be extracting them here, we should be processing them here, and we should do it proudly, knowing that we tap into these resources so much better for our environment than so many other countries elsewhere around the world. This was a great find. We should be tapping into these sources.
Administrator Zeldin, God bless and protect you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.